And this evening, I'm really, really excited about this Google Hangout with the lovely and beautiful Miss Cheryl Pullins. Miss Pullins is the iconic it girl of branding. Cheryl, thank you for joining me tonight.
Thank you, Angelia. Thank you for having me. Yay, yay.
We made it happen, did we, girl?
Yes, indeed.
Yes, I definitely really wanted us to have a conversation and chat. What I really like about the Hangouts that we've established and working with the marketing team is, to be able to connect and be able to show the viewers and people who may want to know a little bit about me, but the individuals who actually have had an impact in my life. Because if I never went through the starting over challenge, I probably wouldn't be doing no Google Hangout. I would still be kind of in the background somewhere. No one's seeing me. I mean, I'm comfortable and I'm good with being in the background. That works very well for me. So this is new to me, but it's exciting. But, I can contribute a lot of this, and, I'm really grateful because it's, because of the Starting Over Challenge and Miss Cheryl Pullins. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Wonderful. You are welcome.
A lot of time we use social media, we don't get a chance. We may inbox each other or send a tweet or something, but to be able to see each other face to face, and as we often say in church, give people their flowers while you can smell them or see them.
Right.
So, that's really good. So tonight we're going to be talking about radiant living, and as I've already kind of talked to you about, we're just going to just flow, this free flow, and we're going to let you do what's best, and just have a conversation. If any of those on social media or anyone watching like to have a question, we'll shoot that your way. But then to get started, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about Cheryl. Who is Cheryl Pullins, the iconic it girl? Who are you? Tell us about.
Somebody asked me this question the other day. I had to send something in, and that was one of their questions. And I started off by saying, I'm a little chocolate girl from South Philly. And, and that really is in my heart and my core. That's who I am. I'm a little girl from South Philly, who believed in herself when she was young, to the point where that, she believes in her dreams. And that's in spite of all the challenges, in spite of the obstacles, in spite of life. I'm still that little girl from South Philly that has dreams and that has desires. But I'm also, a speaker and a coach and you can go down the list of all of those things. But ultimately, I help women really, really create amazing lives for themselves by really becoming self-empowered, going within themselves and pulling themselves up by the internal bootstraps, so that they can live the life that they truly desire. So I do that through coaching and speaking and consulting, and I love every minute of it.
Awesome. Now, Cheryl, is this something that happened overnight, or is it something as a little girl? I mean, were you the girl in high school or junior high or in college or just at church that everybody can go to and just say, girl, I got this problem, and then you will listen to them? Because when I think about coaches, it's like when I even went to the doctor's office the other day, I got tickled laughing at the nurse. I was like, I just dumped on the girl. I was like, I'm so sorry, I'm just dumping on you today. She said, it's all right, honey. She said, it's okay. I said, well, I'm just having a moment. I said, I just need to just pour out. So how did you know? I know, being a woman of faith, that you knew that this was your calling, and I'm sure that you can kind of go way back and to really know. But share with us how you knew. How did you just know? And then once you knew, you move forward. Was that process easy to really step out?
Well, This is what I knew when I was 9. When I was 9, I knew that I was going to be a speaker. It was something that was in me. Some girls stand in the mirror, with a microphone, with a brush as a microphone to sing.
Mm-hmm.
I would stand in front of the mirror and I would talk to my imaginary audience.
Mm-hmm.
I would face the mirror. I had my hand gestures. So I would spend so much time talking like I was doing presentations. It was hilarious. It really was. So that was something I knew when I was 9. Once I got in high school, I realized my gift for listening and helping people. And it would just happen naturally and organically. And I didn't totally pay attention to it then, but as I got older, I realized that people were comfortable around me. And even still to this day, I can meet people for the very first time, and they'll start talking, and they'll start sharing, and I'm listening, and then they'll stop and go, I don't even know why I'm telling you all of this. But I know why. Because I know that I've been gifted with the ability to not just listen, but to listen with a very non-judgmental ear. And that's a rarity. Be able to listen to someone with no judgment about where they are in their lives, how they're thinking, what they're feeling, but being compassionate enough to understand that that's the season that they're in their life. So, has it been overnight? No, ma'am, not at all. It has not been overnight. It's been a steady progression. And the progression is not only knowing and being aware of what I'm supposed to do, but also having a self-awareness of just who I am as a woman and how I show up and how I serve in the world, and doing it even through my own challenges and difficulties, but having the capacity to still be there for others. That is also a part of the journey as well.
That's beautiful. And when you were talking, and just to be able to have that gift of listening, everyone definitely is listening is definitely a skill and a gift. And I think some people have definitely more. They're better listeners than other people. So I mean, I think that's a real huge component, and just being able to, and like you said, this pouring. I think I was in that category. One time I just went in Facebook and telling you all my stuff. I'm just like, oh, I'm like, it's okay. But it's that trust, that I don't, and we know, but I knew it was something that I can trust you with, and that's a blessing, because a lot of people, we need, a lot of people you can't really, open your heart and your soul and your spirit. So I mean, it's really, so I'm grateful that that there are individuals such as yourself that do listen, because when I get to talking and I'll be like, whew. Well, I don't wear myself out talking, but I mean, it's just wonderful to be able to have that skill, and then even having that trust. So so you talked about where, how it started and where it began. So tell us a little bit about, I don't want to get deep into the radiant living. I think I want to talk a little bit about Cheryl at this point. About even you learning the process in your coaching. And I know that you've been at it for, I think, is it around 20 years? Am I about 20 years?
In terms of?
Just doing, just kind of, being like a coach, mentor, just.
Well, if you include my corporate career, absolutely, it's been more than 20 years. Because working in HR in the capacity I had, you did a lot of coaching, and it wasn't called coaching back then.
But even in that process, sure, I know, because you said a lot. You said a mouthful, so I mean, I can really, kind of go through that. But on your journey, you we're going to talk about how you have to rebrand and reinvent yourself. But I mean, how do you know for a person to be where you are, and you know you have to associate your association with people, and how you have to be able to, it just don't seem like you can have a whole bunch of people in your ear doing what you do in order to be able to um, effectively listen, so people can have a trust. And I mean, how do you do that? How did you do that?
And that's a great question, because a lot of times people don't ask that question. But
Mm-hmm.
I believe because I worked in human resources for so long, it was a skill that I cultivated.
Mm-hmm.
And that skill was being able to silo myself to some degree when it came to, you know, people telling me their problems and their challenges and their struggles. Um, it's a requirement in the human resources field.
Right.
If you're working in human resources, you're privy to very high level confidential information.
Absolutely.
At the start, everybody's salary. I mean, there's so much confidential information that you have access to, that over time it was something that I learned that this is just the way it is. Yes, we could be sitting in the same room, you and I, we could be having a conversation about something else, and I could clearly know that something is about to happen, but I can't say anything. I can't allude to anything. I can't do any of that. And I think that's something that I cultivated over the years, and I've learned that trust and confidentiality in this coaching industry is vital, and it's key, because people come to you for solutions. And when they come to you, that means that they trust you,
Mm-hmm.
that they've been watching you for a while, and now they're like, okay, I'm gonna share my heart with this individual in hopes that what I share with them is never, heard anywhere else. And that is very, very important to me. My business, that is part of my values. That is part of the foundation of my business. It's a requirement for me. I don't have a lot of people working with me. I don't have nobody really handles my clients but me, and that's
Good.
my one-on-one clients but me, and that's just the way it is, and that's the way that I have it, because it's delicate. These are people in their lives, and they're trusting you to help them navigate things in their lives and their business. And you can't be out blabbing and talking, and they can't see that, you are out, kind of just throwing people's information out, even if you never say their names.
Exactly.
People, social media in particular, people congregate, people watch. They might not say anything, but they are looking, I promise you. So you can't be out there, sharing information anonymously thinking that it's anonymous. You understand what I mean when I say that?
Mm-hmm.
Because at a minimum, the person that you're talking about, they're going to know. Yeah, yeah.
I think that's awesome because I mean that's something that I've never I particularly don't like the throwing the shades, and I was like, oh come on, we gotta be more mature, so yeah, so I think that's awesome. So in your course of your career, I mean, I'm sure that there's been some times that I mean, you just didn't wake up and was this perfect coach. Did you ever have it? Did you share with us? Because I like for us to be candid because without going into you don't have to tell too much, but a lot of times some of my effectiveness has been when I'm kind of candid. When I talk about my journeys and my stumbles and fumbles, I'm still stumbling and fumbling as the publisher and CEO of Hope Magazine. But it's through those stumbles and fumbles that when I look, I'm like, okay, this is what's really making me. And some days it'd be like, oh, this is just so painful. So share with us about, some things that you learned early on. I mean, you've shared so much about the whole trusting and listening, but share with us some things that you had to learn, or that you experienced, that you can look back now and say, and what I mean by that is like being okay with, one thing I had to learn is to be okay with revamping, regrouping, because I thought that was a bad thing. If I couldn't get an issue out, or if I couldn't do a particular thing, if I didn't make, maybe sold 2 or 3 ads, I felt like, oh, I hate to say the word, a failure. But how have you, and you can share how you even, coach people as to, to be okay with where you are.
Yeah, there's a lot there on that one, because for me, there's several there are several things, and one of the things that I really have struggled with is perfectionism.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I have really struggled with that because I have been of the school of thought that if I can't do it exactly the way I want it done, with the exact outcome that I expect, then I don't want to do it.
Wow. Wow.
Or, it failed.
Mm-hmm.
I have really, really struggled in that area to the point where sometimes I don't even do things because I'm like, okay, well, if I can't get it this way or in this place or to look like this or have this result, I'm not going to do it. And
Mm-hmm.
that is perfection paralysis. So I paralyze myself. I don't move forward. I take these little teeny baby steps because I want to make sure everything is just so and just right, and it sabotages what it is you're supposed to do. It totally sabotages it because the whole real issue is around consistency. You got to get out there. People got to see you. You got to do stuff. People got to experience it. I don't care if it's 10 people, 5 people, 2 people, 100 people, 300 people, 500 people, 5 people, whatever. You just got to stay at it, and you got to keep consistent. And that's the thing I have to keep telling myself over and over and over and over again. Because I live in my mind, I live in this state of perfection, and it's not serving me. And that's something that I really, really have had to deal with on a regular basis. And think, okay, well, all right, well, maybe I can't do the Cadillac or the top tier. Maybe I need to do the moderate right now until I get it to where I want it to be, until I work it that way. So that's been one of my biggest struggles, if I could be transparent. Another one of my struggles has been effectively communicating with people that I'm working with. Sometimes my communication has gaps in it, has holes in it, and I have to, in order to really operate in integrity and really operate in a way that people feel confident that I'm the person that they want to do X, Y, or Z, that communication has to be tight. Even if, I'm communicating something that they don't want to hear.
Is that hard? Is that hard, Cheryl? Is to communicate, to be, I couldn't, that's something I have a hard time with, is just really speaking speaking the truth, or speaking my truth, or just telling somebody. I'm like, oh, so is that difficult for you? I mean,
it's not that part of it is not difficult. The part that I get challenged with sometimes is I get distracted and I start doing other stuff. I do have the shiny object syndrome a lot of times, and I have to work very, very hard at not being that way. So that's another, challenge of mine that feeds into, this communication mismatch. Make sure that I circle back and get back to people, close loops, and do the things that I need to do. Part of it is that I am highly creative. And
Mm-hmm.
if you know anything about creative people, we can be like way.
Trust me, I still think I might have a touch of adult ADD or something. But I'm
We're
like,
not interested in the details, and and actually that might in this moment that might be me really sharing my truth from a very transparent place, whereas because of my profession I was always in the details, but I think the truth is I've never liked that. And I
mm,
prefer to operate from that creative side where I'm creating things and I'm casting vision and I'm operating in my true, authentic brilliance versus now I got to respond to emails.
exactly, exactly. Do you think that has? I think when you were talking about. Um, you were talking about setting. Well, what I was when you were speaking earlier, I was thinking about when you talked about, and I was thinking we have 5 or 10, 30 people. But do you think it kind of falls along the lines with just having set goals? And because a lot of times we measure success. I mean that's something that me personally I had to work with. Is I didn't. I was always, and I'm still to this day of compared. I'm flattered that I'm compared to a lot of the big mainstream magazines, and I'm like, no, I'm not there yet. And and just the perception of what people thought, and I felt like I had to live up to that. But one day, Cheryl, I just woke up and said, you know what, it is what it is. If I have 500, if it's 100 women, that I'm going to give them the best hope product that they could ever imagine. And I did that 2014, January. And that's what I've done.
Mhm.
So I think, with you saying that, it's just like to be able, if you have 5 coaching clients, and then, it's not about the numbers. And I think a lot of times, why is it that we feel like that's what success is? I think we, misinterpret that.
Well, I think it's because we haven't defined what success means to us as an individual.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
what we do is we spend a lot of time looking at um, everyone else and what success looks like based on what they've created, as
Mm-hmm.
versus sitting down and looking within yourself and saying, what does success really look like to me? And being confident and comfortable enough with it to say, you know what, this is what it looks like to me. It has nothing to do with what it looks like to everybody else. And be okay with that.
I agree. I agree. And I remember when I had to have that moment of truth with myself is because, when I first started, my journey, I was like, oh, I saw I see myself in the big corporate office, and I see me in my nice suit, and I'm sitting there in my nice pretty shoes and everything. And I remember someone telling me, Cheryl, and it just hit me like a brick. They said, you can build this foundation, and it might be your daughter that it actually, when in her time, that actually really flourished the brand. And I was like, wow, that is so true. It is so true.
Very true.
So instead of thinking about the big scheme of things, I just started to live in the moment, in the space that I have.
Yes, yes, yes. And you have, Angelia, you have created a magazine for women that, by all means, can certainly be compared to any other Christian woman magazine out on the market because you deliver a stellar product.
Hmm.
You just do. I know you're looking at it like, I'm not there yet. I'm not, well, it's about perception.
That's
Brand
true.
is about perception.
That is
So the
true.
perception is that, you have a stellar, top-notch magazine that serves women all over, and celebrate that. Celebrate that. We
Hmm.
focus a lot of times on where we haven't gotten to and what we don't have. But I say focus on what you have accomplished in 10 years. It's been a tough road, a long road, but look, you're still hanging in there. When
Still
there are
here.
some other magazines have folded and they're not even operate, you're still hanging in there. You know, you're still producing something. You still have an active community. You're still engaging. You're still leveraging. So, I mean, celebrate that. Celebrate that.
Thank you. I would definitely, yes, I would. I hear that all the time. And I think that's when you talking about perfectionist, that's that part of me that I feel like,
Absolutely.
oh, I need to do better. And so there's some work to be done
Yeah.
on me in that component. So thank you. So that's on my list of things that I have to work on, is not being a perfectionist thinking, because it really, we as this as an overall, and whoever may be watching, we all need to be grateful and just celebrate where we are. So I want to move kind of forward towards, because we can, because Jamila, pretty soon she'll be chiming in, telling me that I got to start, thinking about the time. But I want to talk about what's next, and talk about your radiant living, and radiant lifestyle, and your next. I know a lot of, I don't know, and I'm sorry if I'm, kind of letting, spilling the beans on, and but I mean, share with us, you know, I mean, I think your campaigns, or just this together, always just like on point and just on time. But tell us a little bit about your radiant living. What does all that entail?
So, radiant living really is something that I took from what I used to call victorious living. If
Mhm.
I had a magazine, and my magazine was called Live Magazine. It was Live in Victory Every Day.
Right.
And basically, radiant living was kind of developed out of that. And I got to radiant living because I thought, we have so much on the inside of us that radiates out, that radiates from within. And I really want women to really do the inner work, so that they can radiate, so they can create a radiant lifestyle for themselves. Radiant living really isn't about what happens on the outside. Radiant living is really about what happens on the inside, and how you deal with yourself internally. And all of that came about because of me dealing with my own internal stuff, really having some truth moments with myself, having some come to Jesus conversations with myself about, where I needed to shore up, or where I needed to, do some more work. Because what I realize is that every level, there's a new thing that you are confronted with about yourself
Mhm.
at every level. So the higher you go, the deeper you have to go within yourself to deal with those things that are in there that show up when you get to another place in life. And that's really what radiant living is all about. It's about doing the inner work, because we live from within, doing that inner work, that radiates out. So when it radiates out, it's vibrant. It's spectacular. It is victorious. It shines bright. And it shines bright in a way that, even if you're going through a challenge, even if there seems as though life is just punching you in the throat, that you can still show up and shine. You're not being fake, you're not being phony, and you're not pretending. You can still say, you know what? Yep, I got some stuff going on in my life. It is really nipping at my heels. I talk about having a cruise ship full of lemons thrown and hurled at you, but I'm still, I'm still here. I'm still here, and it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. That
Yes.
really is the foundation for radiant living.
Well, I know that's going to be amazing. It is. But when you start talking about radiant living and doing the inner work, sometimes in that inner work, Cheryl, girl, that could be scary. When you start really digging deep and to really push those layers back, and whew, you don't ever know what you might that might exist that you didn't even know was there. And I definitely think in order to progress and move forward, there you have to deal with it.
Yeah.
So within this, so this would be at probably, I'm sure this would be at the founding foundation of the challenge, is to be able to have that the truth with yourself, and just to be, I mean, because it's easy, you know, it's a process to be able to get to a place to be, quote, to be at that top tier of the radiant. I mean, because, you know, as I was sharing offline, this was a I mean, I mean, for one, I can say this was a horrible week. It was a challenging week. But
Mm.
on the flip side, I can say, but I'm still grateful, because I should have, it's a lot of things that I should be grateful for. But I mean, but you know, the truth of the matter is, sometimes we don't feel radiant on the inside. It's just like,
Hmm.
how do we push? I mean, what can you share? Any tips, or if I, how do we, you know, how do we always think? How can we always take our mind back to think about the joy and the goodness and the shine, and just, it could be worse, because you know, a lot of times we say that, and sometimes you be like, I don't even want to hear that, girl. I just don't even want to hear that. I just let me have my moment.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, one, I believe in having your moment.
Mhm.
I don't believe that you should, always, that you should act like nothing's happening in your life. So, yeah, I believe take the time, honor your feelings when they come up, but still understand that you can overcome. And how do you ask, how do you do that? How do you push through that, when things are going crazy or haywire or stuff is happening in your life? You really have to put your mind in a space that allows you to look at it from the perspective of it's going to be okay. And how do
Mhm.
you do that? Well, how I do it is, one, I prayer.
Mhm.
Prayer is key. It's vital. It's important. It keeps me grounded. It keeps me in a position of gratitude. It allows me to talk it out. I talk to God just like I'm talking to you.
Mhm.
I said, God, okay, you got this, and I build up my faith by the word of God, because I am a woman of faith. So I build up my faith by the word of God. I listen to teachings, I read. I mean, I do all of that by building up my faith using the word of God. Um, and one of the things that I have found personally in the course of my life, whenever I have gotten to a really big challenge and place in my life where I really, really need to be supported and strengthened within my spirit, is that I read the word. Well, I read it out loud. Like, I don't just like read it, quietly. I read it out loud, and I read promises. I read things that are really going to build me up. I read Psalms. I read Proverbs. I mean, I read stuff that is just going to encourage me. And I tell you, it works wonders. And one of the things that I'm going to do is to use that same idea to do a project and put it out there, because I believe that it's going to really, really help women in their time of need, in their time of struggle. And they can listen to it, of course, when they're not in struggle. But
Mhm.
I think when you get in struggle and when you encounter challenges, and you can listen and hear or read or really apply specific parts of the Word of God to it, I think it really, really, really helps you to say, you know what, no matter what, it's going to be okay.
Yes.
It's going to be okay.
So in addition to the radiant in the I know in that you also going to talk about, I can't remember all my points from the Radiant Living, but I know you're going to talk about being fulfilled. So, and it's, you want to share a little bit about that and then the other components to the Radiant Living?
Well, it really is about, I have like three things. It's about creating a fabulous life or a radiant life. It's about living a life that's fulfilled, and it is about freedom. And oftentimes, we look at freedom meaning, oh, I can do what I want, I can travel the world, I can do this, I can whatever freedom looks like for you. But also, what I know about freedom is you have to become free within yourself,
Mm.
within your being. It's not just an outward thing, it's an inward thing. It starts on the inside. So radiant living is about, yes, creating this fabulous life for yourself and being okay with that, but also becoming free within yourself, freeing yourself of the things that really, really bind you and hold you back. And sometimes those things are deep down within you that you've covered up, that you've learned to adapt and overcome without dealing with it. They're buried down within you, and you need to get them up, and you need to get them out, and you need to become free within yourself first.
And saying that, it took me back to when I actually, when I first started Hope, and I've shared it in the blog, and it took me a while to even to open up, because it was, a lot of people was like, well, how did you start Hope and all that, and where did the name come from? Well, it just wasn't because I wanted to do a great magazine and have all these people on the cover, but wonderful people on the cover, but it actually originated because of my life as being molested from the age of 4 until I was 8 years old. So, of course, it was in the 70s, where incest and molestation was the best kept secret in the world, and people didn't talk about it. I mean, it happened, and no one in the family talked about it. It was suppressed. And when I started Hope at the age of 35, that's when I had this awakening, this enlightening moment. I mean, sure, I was in this bubble up until that point. I was like, okay, I knew God gave me this vision. I didn't know what I was doing, but then everything hit me at the age of 35. I had the low self-esteem, I had confidence issues and all those things. So when you talk about the freedom, this 9 years or this 10 years have been freeing for me, because I've been able to, somewhere in life I lost my identity. I had to go back and find that identity, and I think a lot of women have, they don't know who they are, because for years, as an abuse victim, I didn't like to see the person in the mirror that I was looking at. So I created this an imaginary person of what she should look like. And then at the age of 35, I'm starting to realize, oh, I think I like that person in the mirror. I think she can really do something. I think she can inspire somebody. And so that's been that whole process. Some days it looks is radiant, and then some days it wasn't. So, so I think, just even with you sharing that about the freedom, that, I mean, it's like today, when I look back, I'm like, man, I love myself, so. And so many women, that's what I'm saying. So I think this is going to be awesome for so many women, because this even thinking of my journey, I'm just thinking, it's just been so rewarding and just been so exciting just to know that little girl that was, someone else's nastiness and everything, and that I lost who I was. And, and to be able to have that liberty and freedom, even talking to you tonight about what what transpired, but how being used a vessel. And so, so a lot of women may listen to this and see it, and to know that it's not the end. This is, it's liberating. So
Yeah, it is. I mean, it may seem like, you might be going through something right now, and it may seem like you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, but I promise you, there is light. There is light.
it really is like it really is. It really is. So tell us a little bit of what you have going on. What's coming up for Miss Cheryl Pullins
Ah, well,
that that you can share? We don't want to know all the,
yeah, yeah, I have some things that I am really working on. I'm working on revamping some of my programs.
hmm
And that one of them is going to be a real biggie because it's going to be an offering that's going to really shift and help women who desire to be coaches. And I know there are a lot of women out there that desire to be coaches, and I want to put something out there, a program out there that not only enables them to become coaches and really helps them in that, but also helps them to grow their business and build an amazing brand and all those fabulous and fun things. So I'm really excited about that. That's coming in 2015. You'll hear me talking about that more and more as the year progresses. So that's my kind of big project that I'm working on right now. I'm doing some revamping to my business. I'm adding a corporate division in terms of being able to go out and do corporate training because I do love and enjoy that corporate speaking and corporate training. So, and I have, again, 22 years of corporate HR experience. I understand the corporate culture very well. And I have my pulse, on Generation X. So, because that's the shift that's happening in the corporate world right now, and we see it all over the place, and we can start right with Mr. Mark Zuckerberg, creating very different work environments and cultures because they are Gen Xers. So those are the kinds of things that I'm working on. I'm really, really excited about those things. And so I just got to focus and really start to work and craft what it is that I want to see out in the world that represents me and my work and have it make a difference in the lives of people all over.
What's the best advice you've ever received, Cheryl?
Oh, wow. The best advice I'm going to tell you the best advice I ever received. Okay, I don't know if it's the best advice I've ever received, but I can say that in this season of my life, it's the best advice I ever received. And the advice was from one of my amazing friends, and I'm going to say his name because he is just such a dynamic and fantastic leader, Dr. Will Moreland.
hmm
And he is one of these really like under the radar kind of folks that just, if you ask him a question, if you go to him, he's going to give you the real deal. And he said to me, Cheryl, you have to separate the emotional from the practical.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, yeah. That's how I felt when he said it. I'm like, wow, okay. The amazing thing about that statement is you can apply it to any part of your life. You
You
can
can't.
apply it to your business. You can it's applicable because what it really says is it's not saying that you have to deny your emotion. What it's saying is you need to separate it, deal with the emotional part of it, yes, but separate it so that you can become practical enough to know that what you need to do and how you're going to move forward or how you're going to handle a situation. So I promise you, once that was said to me, it jump-started me and put me in motion to go, okay, let me separate out this emotion from this practical, and it's, of course I believe, it's a more masculine approach, but I
hmm
believe that sometimes that masculine approach is effective. And in this case, it was very effective. I believe very wholeheartedly in the feminine and being, and I talk about this, bringing femininity back to business kind of.
hmm
And but this thing, even though I believe it's very masculine, it's still very effective. You know, separate the emotional from the practical, and then you can see a little clearer about what it is you need to do next.
Well, I sure needed that tip. That's awesome because as I share with a lot of I share with my last hangout with Jackie, and I'm going to ask you. It's because I laugh at myself. Is because when opposition and things happen, I'm an emotional. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just all dramatic and everything. It takes me. I mean, it knocks me down for. One time I was knocked down for like a whole month, and then it was like, we need you. You got to pull yourself together. And I mean, it was just like, oh, I just, my feelings and everything was all involved and everything. So I always find it real interesting now. And I know people probably say, well, she's acting a little weird because she just asked people, well, how long do you take to go through an issue? And then, I mean, some people do 24 hours. I'm like, 24 hours? I was like, well, I'm like, they have some tough skin. I'm just like, not a week, not 2 weeks. So when you said the practical with the emotional, I'm thinking, okay.
It does vary from one person to the next. It really does. Mm-hmm. It depends on, where you are, how you've developed your mechanism for dealing with things, your approach. Mm-hmm. I promise you, I can remember a time in my life where it would be months, that I would deal with something. I remember my first husband, and when we separated, I mean, honestly, and we divorced, it took me 2 years.
Wow.
It took
but that was your process.
2 years to get to the point where I could even have a half of a conversation with him without being mad, bitter, and angry. Well, without showing it anyway. It took me longer than that to get past the mad, bitter, angry. But 2 years, you know, and most recently, it took me, I'm faced with a very major challenge in my life right now, mm-hmm. that I've decided that I have to move forward from. Mm-hmm. And it took me like a week. It did take me a week because it really knocked me off my square. It really knocked me down. Mm-hmm. And it took me a week. And during that week, I backed off of social media because I didn't want to wear my heart on my sleeve and all that kind of stuff. So mm-hmm. I backed off of social media a little bit. But it did take me a week. But I promise you, once I got that, separate the emotional from the practical, I got myself together and I went within myself, pulled myself up by my own internal bootstraps. I said, God, you got me and you got this. Now, what do I need to do to be practical to move forward? And I started putting things in place. And that took a week. And that was something that was really, 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 probably one of the most challenging things I've faced probably in the last 10 years or so. So it does. It really does depend on where you are in your own journey. Do I take moments? Again, do I take my moments to have my moment? Yep, I give myself about 5-10 minutes. Mm-hmm. Now I give myself about 5-10 minutes, And I honor that feeling in that moment, and then I move forward from it. I try to drown out some of my own mental chatter. That's another thing, because we succumb to that mental chatter. We play tapes in our head and we have these conversations in our head about what's happening and what's going on and what we think and all of that. Well, we have to keep that mental chatter down. So I keep myself, preoccupied. I focus on projects and things I'm working on. I focus on things that are going to move me to my next place and my next level. I surround myself with amazing women. Mm-hmm.
So important.
Surround yourself with amazing women that when you feel it, you can lean on them or shift on them. You can send them a text or send them an inbox. You can say, today's a tough day. I'm not doing too well. And they send you something back, or they say a prayer or something, and I can feel it, because then I feel like, okay, whew, now I can move forward a little bit more. I can go a little bit further. I can go a little faster. I can make a little progress. So, yeah, sometimes that's, you take the time that you need. You take the time that you need, but you find a way to move forward.
Right.
If
Beautiful.
that makes sense.
It does. It does. It does. It does. It does. What inspires you?
What inspires me? This is an amazing question. Yesterday, I was speaking in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and the day before that, I was in the hotel room, and I was thinking about my life, and I was thinking about what does inspire me, what is my why, and how do I really want my life to kind of shake out? And I had to ask myself a series of why questions. And what inspires me really is the opportunity to use what God's given me to serve humanity, to use what God's placed on the inside of me to serve people so that they can become a better version of themselves and live the life they desire. That inspires me all day, every single day.
That's
Every,
more. That's more than.
When I wake up in the morning, I'm inspired by the fact that I'm going to make a contribution to somebody's life in some way that's going to move them forward to the life that they desire and to the best version of themselves.
Oh, that's
That
awesome.
inspires me.
That is awesome. That is awesome. What are three things? I know it's going to be hard, but what are three things you like for our readers or the people or that are watching to take away?
Three things
If you had
to take away.
three tidbits from Cheryl, well,
Three takeaways. Okay. The first takeaway is that you have to do the work. You have to do the work on the inside that really is going to open up and allow you to truly and authentically live the life that you desire. The second thing I want you to know is that it's up to you to figure out how you're going to become the best version of yourself. It's up to you to figure out how you're going to become the best version of yourself. It's not up to anybody else. It's not anybody else's fault. You can't blame anybody else. You have to show up amazingly powerful in your own way. And the third thing I want you to know is that no matter what it looks like, no matter what it seems like, it's going to be okay.
it most certainly is. It most certainly is. But Cheryl, you have to let us know where to find you. So share with us your website, your Twitter handle, Facebook, and all that good stuff. So everyone, please follow and connect with this wonderful woman. You would definitely be so empowered and inspired.
Absolutely. So my website is icoachwomen.com. I kept it real simple. icoachwomen.com is my website. You can find me there. My blog is on there. We talk about a lot of different fun things on the blog. Also on Twitter, I am iCoachWomen on Twitter. You can also find me on Facebook. On Facebook, I'm Cheryl A. Pullins. I'm actually under my name on Facebook, but you can find me. You can go to my page. I would love for you to like my page. Yay. And, we share lots of quotes and tidbits and things on there. We ask questions. We're trying to get our community a bit more engaged over there on Facebook, so you can find me there. I'm also on Instagram. I love Instagram because I like photos. I'm very visual, and I like to play over there because of fashion. So you can find me on Instagram under Cheryl A. Pullins as well. So, yep, those are all the places you can pretty much find me on a regular basis.
Well, we could tell you're a fashionista with those pearls and the lipstick that I'm just like, oh, wow, I love that. That's the Hope Pink thing right there.
Yeah, the lipstick, I'll give a shout out to MAC. It is called Flat Out Fabulous, one of their very popular lip shades.
And you're flat out fabulous. So, Cheryl, I definitely thank you so much for taking time to rearrange your busy schedule. And for us to be able to make this happen on tonight has really been a blessing. And I thank you so much for sharing how to have a radiant lifestyle.
Thank you so much to you, Angelia, and the Hope team for coordinating this and having me. It has been a blast. It is such a pleasure and an honor to serve your community by having this chat with you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much, and you have a great and fabulous evening, lady.
You do the same. Bye.
Bye-bye. Have a good night.
You too.